First of all, before I start, I just want to ask you, who of you have experience with RPA? So which organizations have some initiatives? Okay, not so many yet. So I have a presentation actually, which is suited also for organizations that have little experience. So I will predict your future then a little bit. Okay, so before I start my presentation, I don't know exactly what Edgar's told you all about because my Latvian is not so well. But I want to, I was looking for some pictures to show you a little bit about RPA, attended RPA, unattended RPA. I just thought maybe we should go for an analogy. So first of all, imagine you have a task. So you need to clean your house, and you did that always with like the broom and the cleaning set. So this is the manual approach. This is how we have all done it in the past, but of course not so often anymore because we have the attended approach these days, which is the vacuum cleaner. Good way of doing the work. It's like you do it together. You have a machine and you have a human, and together you do a good job. Attended automation. We have the unattended approach. The robot stops the robot vacuum cleaner. It's the automatic one. And the funny thing is, if we think about RPA, we most of the time aim for this. So we normally look at the unattended approach to implement robotics. To let the robot do everything. And my message here is also you don't have to do that all the time. You can also think about attended automation. Think about installing robots on end-user computers and let your end users be supported by the robot. And that is actually something we see actually starting off right now. In the past, most organizations focused on unattended only. These days, it's also attended. Actually, I don't have an unattended approach at home for cleaning the carpet. Another example, cutting the grass. So maybe the manual approach is like this, how we did it in the past. Attended, a machine and a human together, cutting the grass, and of course the unattended approach with a robotic lawnmower. Well, we also have something called hybrid, which is attended and unattended together, but I couldn't fit this in this analogy. Maybe just the robotic lawnmower and the manual one together. Okay, a little bit about where we are. A lot of organizations are with RPA. So when I started in the RPA market was 2014. By my knowledge, the RPA terminology didn't even exist. So I didn't know what it was. I was working for an RPA company those days, and we called it like web data collection, or data integration, or migration tool. It had all kind of names, but not robotic process automation. And then some of our competitors came up with this terminology, and it was really spot on, because it makes it so much easier to talk about it. It is really good to think about it not in terms of technology. It's not a technical solution for something. It's much better to think about RPA like it's a virtual employee supporting you. It's like temporary labor. You just hire like a virtual employee who is doing something for you. Can be for a long time, can be for a shorter time. RPA focuses on that. And if you talk to like work councils or business people, it's a better way of talking about it than talk about scripting and using IT acronyms. That's better, is my experience. It makes it much more clear what it actually is. For example, there is nothing wrong with building a bot for a one-time task, or to build a bot for only half a year or a year. If it makes your business case, if it is cheaper than labor, or if it's easier to implement than labor, a good solution. Well, then RPA was invented, and now it's the fastest growing technology, I think, software technology in history. So there hasn't been a software solution that grew so fast as RPA is, what I understand. So if you compare with the other hype words like blockchain and cognitive AI and cloud and IoT, then RPA is more people are investing in RPA than in the other technologies. So it is really hot at the moment, and that's what we see. It's maturing fast, it's growing fast, yeah, a lot of organizations are adopting it at the moment, and that's where my presentation is a little bit on, yeah, what to do if you are adopting RPA, what are the problems you're running against, and how can you solve those? So, another slide, I like to add this slide for if there are like human workers in the room, because they're always a bit afraid about, okay, what's going to happen with my job? Well, the figures say that it's not about replacing humans. And that's exactly what the other presentations were also about. It is about amending them. Just so you have employees, you want to keep them, you want to grow. Job market is small, so you are looking for new employees that can help you growing faster with better quality, better customer experience, better employee satisfaction, all those kind of things. It's much more important than FTE reduction. It's at the bottom actually here in this slide, and it's also my experience actually. So sometimes you see that people are focusing on it, but it's not about that most of the time. Well, last slide, and then I will go into a little bit different. So what you see here is the expectations. So these are existing organizations that implemented RPA. I know one of my relations have over 100 robots at the moment, so one of them even 150. So some organizations have a lot of robots, but most of them have not. And these are actually the expectations. Did it meet the expectations? So it meet expectations on compliance, on quality, on the ability to work 24 hours, flexibility. So those things are really high. It met the expectations and even exceeded it. But if you look at cost reduction or speed to implement or cost to implement, well, they are not bad. Actually, they met expectation most of the time. But it's lower. And that's my presentation is about that. So it seems RPA is doing the job. People are excited about it. It is a success often. But it's also, it seems to be, to come with cost. And it seems to take longer to implement than expected. That is what these slides are saying. So that is something we, as a vendor of RPA, we should think about that. This is something we should work on. This seems to be a problem, so we should do that better. This is another statement. So only 4% of the organizations have more than 50 robots at the moment. And last year that was 3%. So it's only 1% increase in 1 year. And that is not much. So this is also something about it. So what it actually says is, and this is also my experience, it's often easy to find low-hanging fruit. So you find one process, you find 5 processes, you implement them, and you make a good business case, you make profit, and you have earnings on your investment. So that's often not a problem. But then to grow, to do more than 5, to find out where is more processes to do. And it looks a bit like this, and I've seen this in different organizations I worked with. So the first one is easy to find. People, you all know a process now. If you understand RPA a bit, you have a process in mind, something you are doing or your people are doing, and you think, well, this is something we can easily do with RPA. And I would say with RPA, the good thing is you know your return on investment quickly. So even 1 or 2 processes can be your return on investment. So it's not such a problem. You implement 1 or 2 processes, you earn back your investment, so you're good. But then you want to grow, of course. You want to do more, and there can be more difficult. So finding 10 processes is doable, but then you go to 14 and 16. So you see that implementation slows down a bit, and you see that I see that often. Depends a bit on the kind of organization, though. I was the opposite is also true. I've also been at a bank, and they easily came with 1,000 use cases. So after a couple of months, they collected 1,000 processes to automate. And then they had the other problem. They had to start somewhere. So we have 1,000 opportunities. Which one do we take first? Which one is the most interesting one? One that we can easily implement. Well, both. The problem with both situations, if you cannot find the right process or if you have too much opportunities, both you need metrics, you need information about the processes, the costs, how easy you can implement it, the required tasks to implement it. And that is what we do. And that is what we are, the RPA market in general, and as KRYON specifically. This is like the holy grail of the growing RPA. And we are all benefiting from growing. You benefit from it, we are benefiting from it. So it's really important to be able to grow and extend. So what is the problem with growing, with scaling up? Well, process fragmentation, maybe lack of a clear vision, lack of your IT readiness, so how ready are your IT systems for robotics, the implementation skills of your partners, resistance to change. I think the last one is an important one also. Maybe work councils, also some more political barriers. So these are reasons why bottlenecks for implementing RPA in general. So how does implementation of RPA looks like in general? Well, first of all, that's what I said. So you need to discover which processes could be eligible for automation. And there are all kinds of ways of doing that. You can just ask the business. Maybe the business asks you if you already have an RPA solution in place for them. You can do discovery workshops. You can do an interview with end users. Ask, what are you doing? How much time does it take? What applications are involved? What kind of tasks are you doing? So this is, to discover, okay, which processes do we have? And then secondly, you need to decide. So what processes are we going to do? Well, first of all, you start with your return on investment or your internal internal rate of return on. I forgot it. That one, yeah. So you can just make a calculation based on value of the process. Well, then you have the 4 V's. Like if you know big data, you know the velocity, variety, variance. So how much data do you have, and how often does it change, and things like that. You have the rules of 5. Maybe you can Google that. It says, it's from Forrester. They say, well, the process shouldn't have more than 5 decisions, 5 clicks, of 500 clicks, or more than 5 applications. If it has more than that, it might be hard to automate it. Well, so these are like things you can use to select your process. And then you need to automate it, and then you need to have a good application, of course, one that allows you to implement fast, right? Not programming, but a low-coding environment where you can utilize your citizen developers of building processes. Well, this is a typical RPA life cycle. Of course, after this, you have like maintenance and replacement. Well, and then we found that actually, if you look at the time implementing a solution like this, then 70% of the time and the cost is in the first phase. So finding, and of course not for your first process, the first handful of processes are fine. We all find 5 processes, that's not the difficulty. But then finding more than that. And then you spend a lot of time on finding the processes, to select the right process, things like that. And building the process is just 30% of the work. That's what we found. So it's not the tool. It's not about the RPA tool in general. It's about how to use it and where to use it. That is where the costs are. And if we want to make it more easy to scale RPA and make it cheaper to scale, give you the right tools to make your decisions, then we can cut costs, we can cut implementation time. So then we work on things like that. Well, we as KRYON, we have developed a tool for this. We call it process discovery. There are multiple RPA vendors doing it, but we were the first ones on the market, and the most mature one, I can say, of course. So, and what we do is actually, we have a software product for you that you can install on end-user computers, and it can actually record the work people are doing. So it starts with what we call activity recording. So we can install a recorder. It was actually based on the technology that Gatis was showing you, wanted to show you. It's a recorder function that is running for 8 hours a day, 7 days a week on an end-user computer. We advise you to run it at like 5 to 10 end-user computers at a time. and it's just recording the work. What are these people are doing? Every time they click, every time they type, it will be saved in our database. It will record everything from Outlook to your ERP system, your CRM system, but it will be limited to what we call the whitelisted application. So you say upfront, okay, I want to monitor Outlook, I want to monitor ERP, a website, maybe the mainframe, Citrix application. There is no limitation in the kind of application that you use. It's any application, but you need to whitelist it. It will build a database with all the work. It could be almost 10,000 actions per user per day. So you easily have like 100, 200,000 actions, words that are typed, mouse clicks, things like that. Oh, that's the blind button, and then we go to the second step. And what we do then is data translation. So our server has collected this information, and what we do is we use OCR technology, we use computer vision technology to view what's on the screen, what has the user been doing. If different users are doing the same thing, the algorithms will actually find that, and it will match that. And then the third step will be that the algorithms will build business processes out of it. So we will find repetitive sequences in these steps. So we will find, okay, this user and this users, they both have onboarded a new employee, or they added a new invoice to the system, or they have sent a package from A to B. So whatever task they have been doing, we will find it. There is, of course, a threshold. Something needs to happen at least 3 times in order to start displaying it. And then we can provide you or your business architects with something called the process dashboard. And you can just see, okay, during the week, these tasks have been carried out by the end users. And this is the step-by-step list of what they have been doing. So user 1 added an invoice like this. User 2 added an invoice like that. We call that a variant. It's all shown in one graph. And in a couple of hours, you and your SMEs or your business specialist will be able to see the process and to make a judgment on that process. Okay, how many decisions do we take? How many steps does the process have? How many exceptions does the process have? And you can use that as a starting point for your RPA project. So then you can do a process selection. Maybe you found like 40 processes. You find like, okay, these 5 processes are really good ones to automate. They happen often. They take a long time, so they're expensive. Maybe they are prone to human error. Things like that, all kind of reasons that you find to automate something. Then we have something called Automate button. So it's what we call one-click automation. So with one button press, it will bring the recording to the studio. Was where I got this ended up in the demonstration. So in the studio, you can then amend the recording. You probably need to change it, of course. It's not, maybe for attended automation, it might be ready out of the box, because it will be a copy of a manual task anyway. But for unattended automation, you probably need to add flow control, right? The robot needs to know when it needs to start and when it needs to end. You need to add error control, maybe to do all kind of checks. So the work is not finished. It's not, we don't say that we automate the full end-to-end from discovery to production, but it will speed it up. It will make it more easy for you to decide which processes to automate and the metrics related to that process. Well, that was almost my story. So I'm from KRYON, just to finish my presentation. So we do RPA, as introduced by Edgars, attended, unattended, hybrid. But we fill the gap. We make it more easy to implement an RPA product by adding process discovery to it, to find the right processes in your organization. We have a solution that will be able to automate any application that you use. So it can be like Citrix-based or terminal-based, Windows-based or web-based. So any kind of software that is, because we use computer vision technology, where other RPA tools are relying on automation APIs, which we do support as well, but computer vision allows you to do anything instead of just applications that support automation. Yeah, so and we have attended, unattended, hybrid, and what I said, most organizations, if you think about RPA, you think about unattended. That's your first focus. It's also low-hanging fruit, but attended is coming up these days. More organizations are looking at that. Attended allows you that end users make decisions for you in the process. It's, for example, really useful for processes that should happen right now. Like in a call center, somebody's calling, it needs to happen now and not in a schedule during the weekend. So that's an upcoming technology that, that we work on pretty much these days. And that's where we are.